So these are the 5 C's: be careful, comfort, commitment, confidentiality, and contact. So there are 5 resources where you can approximately report the crime. One is the child helpline number, that is 1098 1098. The way you can remember it is, it's reverse counting from 10 to 8, 1098. That's the 4-digit number. You can call on any time on 1098 and report them and report about it. Right. Second thing is, you can also report to CWC. Now, when I mean CWC, I simply mean Child Welfare Committee. So Child Welfare Committee is available in every district. You just have to type on Google that CWC contact numbers of the particular district, like CWC contact numbers of Hyderabad, CWC contact numbers of Chandigarh. So you type that on Google and you'll get the entire directory. You can also report on DCPU. Now DCPU is District Child Protection Unit. Again, it's present in every district. You just have to type you can type DCPU contact numbers of the particular district. You can also fourthly report to DM. DM is the district magistrate. Every city has a district magistrate. You can again type on the Google, you can get the name. And of course, finally, you can also report to the police. Right? So these are the 5 resources where any of the 5 resources you should be reporting in case you witness a child getting sexually abused. Now the next query which comes into your mind is that I don't want to get into so much hassle because my identity would come out, and I'll have to go to police stations and all this kind of hassle would be happening, and I have a normal life as well. Why should I disrupt my life? So POCSO also says that your identity will never be disclosed. So for example, if I Rahul Singla report a case to Childline Chandigarh and I say that there's a particular case happening in Chandigarh, and you can of course ask me the information, you can have my contact number, you can have my number, my name as well, but I don't want you to take out my name anywhere else outside. Even the child whom I'm reporting, that child should also never know that I reported the case. So your identity will be protected at any cost. Unfortunately, due to political issues, a lot of times names do come out, because the victim name should also never come out, but it does come. But of course, if you talk about legally, you can of course report the case. You can go to NCPCR if that such a case happens. Now NCPCR is National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Right? So and NCPCR is the universal the universal government body in Delhi who is working on all the issues. So you can directly report to them. The next thing which you should know is, because I'm assuming that a lot of here are parents as well, you should be very careful that your children who are maybe around 18 or below 18, everyone is a child. So your children or your sons or daughters should not be into a relationship with any kind of children out there. What I mean to say is, a 19-year-old boy should not be in a relationship with a 17-year-old girl physically. According to POCSO, if a 19-year-old boy is into physical activity with a 17-year-old girl, then it's a case of child sexual abuse. Because according to POCSO Act, the consent is not valid. A child cannot give a consent. And this is again a huge loophole, because a lot of false allegation cases happen through this. A lot of times this happens, that the 17-year-old girl has been brainwashed in such a way that the family might have to take a revenge from other family, and they have a boy who is 19-year-old, so they get into relationships and all, and then later the girl reports that it was a case of child sexual abuse, and legally the authorities will have to put the 19-year-old boy behind the bars, even if it was all consensual. So this is very important for parents, because a lot of us have children who might be in colleges and they might be into relationships. So be very cautious that they are not into physical relationships, with any child, with any girl or a boy out there who is below you. So that is very important, right? So these are the few basics of child sexual abuse that I feel you should know. Now let's also unlearn a few things. I feel unlearning is a very important process, because that's how we give scope to learn new things. And the first thing would be, good touch, bad touch is a totally wrong terminology. So I request you all that if you have ever been teaching or educating children around you about good touch, bad touch, it is kind of misinformative in a way, because how do we teach our children about good touch, bad touch? That any touch which you perceive on your body is good touch, right? And any touch which you feel bad about on your body is bad touch. And then you say that private parts, if someone touches you on a private, that's a bad touch. Now, when you associate a private part with a bad touch, which means that private part is also bad. So you already affiliated shame with it. When you affiliate shame or guilt with the particular body part, the child might not come to you talking about it because it's bad. Logical? Other confusing thing is, a lot of times when someone is getting sexually abused, or someone is getting touched on their private part, and especially children, they might feel good about it because that's the biological response by your body. If someone touches your private parts, the ergonomous zones are there that you might feel pleasure about it. But it was not a good touch. But they felt good about it. Now, isn't that very confusing for the child? Because you told them something else and now they are perceiving something else. And there are a lot of incidents which I have encountered in my team itself, because 90% of the team in Bachpan are themselves child sexual abuse survivors. So they have been in this guilt for many years that when they were getting sexually abused, they had an orgasm. So they felt very guilty that it might be a possibility that they enjoyed it. But that's not true. Having an orgasm is just a biological reaction by your body. It's just like, you might hate a particular type of food and I forcefully put it into your mouth. So your body will digest it, but you didn't like it. So you didn't like this sexual abuse part, but orgasm was just a biological reaction by the body. So the child, it might not be safe for the child to getting touched on the sexual abuse or physical things, but it is kind of pleasurable for them. So the better terminology is using safe and unsafe touch. So when we go to schools and when we teach people about unsafe touch, what we tell them is that unsafe touch is of two types. One unsafe touch is that you are the owner of your body, आप अपनी body के मालिक हो, and anyone who touches on your body and you feel uncomfortable. Now we have to affiliate uncomfortable with emotions as well. So you put a range of emotions for them. Emotions like you feel weird, you feel bad, you feel sad, you feel angry, you feel anxious, all these kind of emotions. So अगर ऐसा होता है, this is unsafe touch. Also, if someone touches you on your private parts and you might feel good about it, but it's still unsafe touch, right? And you also give them the reason that why it is unsafe touch. Because this is not the right age for them to get involved into physical activities or penetration, because their body is not ready for it. Because that's the actual reason. It's not bad, it's just that they're not ready for it. So you have to kind of unlearn good touch, bad touch and use safe and unsafe touch. Now second thing is, a lot of times parents and children and adults also feel very skeptical about using the correct nomenclature. So what I usually see in schools is that how teachers have been teaching in schools is that there are 4 private parts. One is lips, second is chest, third is part between the legs, and fourth is hips. Now part between the legs is a totally wrong terminology, because again when you're saying part between the legs, this word in itself is very curious for the child, that what part within the legs. So they'll try to explore it. When they'll try to explore the internet, they'll get all kind of wrong things and maybe wrong and misinformation. So you should be very open in discussing the exact terminology, like penis for boys, vagina for girls, or maybe gender neutral terms like genitals. Now the question might be how to teach a child who is in class 1 or pre-nursery about penis, vagina, because they don't know exactly ABCD as well. So what we do in such schools is we use the terminology of susu place and potty place. So people who are aware about Hindi and who have been conversing in Hindi, this is a very normal language which parents use, that you went for susu or not, you went for potty or not. So potty place, susu place is something the children know. So that would be very helpful for them, so that in future, if any case of CSA happens, they can directly come to you and tell you that what exactly has been happening, right? And that also doesn't affiliate shame and guilt with the part, because you openly told them what the body part is, right? The third thing which we have to unlearn is that we should understand that children are very curious, like very, very curious. And whatever children ask you when they're very small, when they're toddlers, or maybe they're in the very few small age, they are asking everything out of curiosity. Like you might have seen a lot of children, play this game of Doctor Doctor, and they are small. But we never try to understand why they play this game. Let's imagine a scenario that when children are small, they know that there's a body part which everyone is covering every time. Parents also, like parents and everyone in the home is covering every time. And whenever the child, because children very, they like to have a bath and they like to roam naked in the house. And whenever they roam naked, then we say shame, shame, poppy shame. Again, they feel curious that what is about this body part that is making it shameful, or why parents are emphasizing so much on this body. Even a lot of children pee on the floor and they love playing on that, and then again we pick them up and they say, "Chi chi, what are you doing?" and everything. So we ourselves unintentionally have been stressing on this body part from the very childhood, and we also expect children to not ask about this, and that is not possible. So you have to be brave enough to answer the queries, and if you will not answer, they'll try to ask either from their peers, and either they'll search it from the internet. And imagine if you search on internet, like what is a penis, what is a vagina, the top searches would be about size of penis, vagina, the color, and that's where the misinformation starts, and that's how the children also get into situations of pornography. I don't know if you have heard that there are a lot of cases where a 7-year-old child sexually abused a 2-year-old boy or a girl. There have been a lot of cases. A 4-year-old, a 5-year-old child sexually abuse a 1-year-old girl or a boy. How can this happen? Maybe we'll discuss that if we have time, but these cases do happen, right? So these are the few things which we need to unlearn. And now I'll most probably come to my last topic, and discloses about child sexual abuse too. So there are different ways, but just recently, the RET team gave me a very good pointer. So we call it the 5 C's. There are 5 C's which you can remember that, and you can always take care in mind when you have to respond to any child who has been sexually abused. So the 5 C's are: first is be careful, comfort, commitment, confidentiality, and contact. So be careful with what kind of words you are using in the front of a child. For example, you cannot say to the child, why didn't you come to me back then? Why did you go there? It was your fault. How could this happen? He's or she's your chachu or chachi. You should remember that first of all, it's our fault that we didn't educate the child about all these things. And out of somewhere, the child has to do a lot of struggle in searching and in letting themselves know that what was happening to them. And then they came to you. And then getting such a response can be very disheartening for them. So you have to be careful about what you say. Second, you have to comfort the child. You have to be very empathetic. You have to be very caring and affectionate when the child comes and seeks for such kind of support. Third is commitment. You have to commit to the child that you are not sure about the justice thing, but whenever the child needs you, you'll try to be there. You have to commit your support to them. Fourth is confidentiality. You will take care that the privacy or the experience or the incident doesn't go out or doesn't go to a third person until the child wants to share that to someone else. And the fifth is contact to people for support. You can contact to counselors or therapists who can do the child's therapies. You can contact Childline or government authorities, and you can report this. So these are the 5 C's: be careful, comfort, commitment, confidentiality, and contact. So when you will be taking care of, I think, a few of these things, a lot of things will get easy for you. And that was the entire just a gist of child sexual abuse that I wanted to tell you guys. And the one conclusion I want to give in then before I summarize my workshop is that I think it's not very difficult issue. It's of course a complex issue, and what makes it even more complex is that people are not working on it on an individual level. When parents, teachers, lawyers, everyone decide to get themselves educated on this, even through the internet, then I don't think there would be space for organizations out there that they have to specifically put a lot of efforts to work on this issue. And that I think goes for any kind of issue out there. So the simple thing is, just if you have a doubt, don't shun your child away. If you have a doubt, just search it on the internet. There are a lot of resources and you'll definitely get something to educate you.
Children are very curious, you said. So if a 3-year-old comes and says, I want to see your butt, I want to see this part of your body, how do you react to it?
Right. So firstly, Shivani ji, the thing is that how you react is firstly very important. So if you say chi chi, what are you talking about? So there itself you lose the child, right? So you have to start explaining the child there are certain parts which are known as private parts, right? And they're private for a reason, because you can touch them, you can feel them, you can see them whenever you are alone. You are into a private space. But when you are with people around, then these body parts should be covered. It's more like, why don't you eat 10 to 15 chocolates in a day? It's not good for your health. So similarly, you explain them. You explain them about butt, you explain them about penis, you explain them everything. The simple answer to this question would be that you should not be, uncovering certain body parts when you're outside in the public. But whenever you're around, you can touch them, you can see them. That's totally up to you. Because a lot of time, just recently, a 20-year-old girl, from the team itself, she told me again that the first time she ever saw vagina, her own body part, was when she was 16-year-old. How can you even, take care of a body part which you have never seen? Because there has been so much shame attached in her family about these body parts. She belongs to an orthodox family. So touching vagina, penis, and all these things, it's such a taboo. So whenever a child is 2 or 3-year-old, he should be very openly talking to them about the body parts. They'll also ask you कि मम्मा आप वॉशरूम में जा रहे हो, आपने दरवाजा क्यों बंद कर रखा है, right? They'll ask you मम्मा ये कपड़े पहनने की क्या need है? So you should be very clever enough to give them certain amount of answers to a certain extent, and then जैसे जैसे बच्चे बड़े होंगे, then you can of course give them the detailed answer.
So what do you say when they say, no, I want to see, I'm a boy and I want to see how a girl looks?
Right. So उस केस में you just have to simply tell them, जैसे मान लो कि कोई अगर बच्चा है, there is a boy, the boy is asking you that I have this private part penis, ठीक है, and मुझको देखना है कि girls में कौन सा body part होता है, private part होता है, right? So in that case, what you can do is you can do a visual presentation for you, which is easily accessible on internet, and you can explain them the body parts. उसमें कोई problem नहीं. And then you also explain them कि the way I never ask you that you show me your private parts until it is necessary. कि अगर आप बीमार हो, डॉक्टर के पास लेके जाना है या आपको नहलाना है, then only I ask you to show me, then only I can touch you or I can see your private parts. So the way I respect your boundary, similarly you should be respecting my boundary. At the same time, you should also be educating them कि होता क्या.
Children, by nature of curiosity below 4 to 6 years, want to see, want to touch, want to feel, want to taste. So how do you curb all this?
You don't have to curb all of this. You never have to curb the curiosities of the children. You just have to just tell them that of course there is a age appropriate answer for all the situations. For example, कि जैसे अभी आपने मुझसे पूछा कि वो butt वाला, the query the child had. So you don't have to curb the thing. You have to answer them to a certain extent and tell them कि बाकी की चीजें I cannot tell you right now because आपको समझ ही नहीं आएगी.
Grooming the child can also be counted as verbal and visual sexual abuse?
So grooming is itself not child sexual abuse. Grooming is a process towards child sexual abuse. So those of us who don't know about grooming, so grooming is simply when there are people out there and they understand the child's vulnerability or insecurities. They try to understand that, and they also know that the child is lonely at that particular time, which happens normally in adolescence. So for example, a child is very concerned about the body or the color, or maybe the way the people have been treating them. So the simple thing is that when the child is insecure, there are people out there who will spot these insecurities. They'll make a bond with you, and then they will cut your threads with your family. They'll start blackmailing you, starting bit of asking your photos and everything, and eventually the intention is to sexually abuse the child. So grooming is not child sexual abuse. You cannot legally say it's child sexual, but it's a process, and it's one of the major ways how children are sexually abused in a country. And the simple solution is, like Shivani was saying, that simple solution is you have to simply answer the questions of the child, because when they don't answers, then they'll be closer to the family itself. जब बच्चे परिवार से दूर होते हैं तभी उनको कोई ग्रूम कर पाते हैं.